What is up, guys? Welcome to the channel. My name's Micah, and today we're doing a fairly unique full exhaust option for the Honda CRF450RL. So in looking through all the forums online and through all of YouTube, I have never seen somebody do the exhaust setup that we're about to do. But the full cost of everything I've got here today, the muffler, the header, any hardware we needed, my total cost was $321. Now I've been looking around, I wanted to do a full exhaust and a tune for our motorcycle here. And when you look at the different full exhaust systems by all your major name brand manufacturers, there's not that many. There's really just the Yoshimura, the Graves, and then the FMF systems. And all of those pretty much start at $800 and go up from there. So getting all this stuff for $321 was pretty attractive. And at this point, I don't know if it's gonna work. Like I said, I've never seen anyone do this setup, but we're gonna give it a go. And all of the parts, everything that you see us use, I will put in the description below. I got everything off of eBay, and we're a partner with eBay. If you use our links, we get a small kickback, and it's the same price for you. So without further ado, let's rip into it. So I'll kind of show you here what we're working with and what the exact plan is. So in my searching for exhaust for this motorcycle, I was looking on eBay and I had come across these no-name header pipes that just come back to a universal 2-inch 51mm exhaust outlet that you could just attach any universal motorcycle muffler with a 2-inch outlet on it. So the listings definitely look a little bit sketchy. I mean, there's not that much info on them. You don't really know if it's gonna work or not, and from the pictures, it looked like there was an O2 sensor bung up in the header, which our motorcycle here, we're in the United States, they do not have an O2 sensor spot in the header where I had seen one on these header pipes in the pictures. Now this exhaust header comes from Thailand, and when you look at it on eBay, it says the order time is about a month out. And then it says, once you look at the description in the pictures, it says it's for a 2021 or 2022 Honda CRF450RL. But when you look at the full exhaust systems from all the other name brand manufacturers, it says that they fit a 2019 to 2025 model year. So I thought that was kind of funny that it said this only fit those 2 years, and our bike here is a 2024, so based on the description, this exhaust should not fit our motorcycle, but I have a feeling that it will, and it should be totally fine. So I ordered the exhaust and I got just a universal motorcycle muffler, and both of them showed up this afternoon, 5 days after I ordered them. It did not take the 30 days that eBay estimated it would take. So let me show you what we got. So the header pipe, it's gonna be in 2 different pieces. You know, when you compare this to like the Yoshimura, the Graves, the FMF, you have your header piece that looks very similar to this, but then the mufflers have like a link pipe attached to them. So your whole full exhaust system is just 2 pieces. Well, with this system, you know, your full header all the way back to the muffler is 2 pieces, and then your muffler will go on this second rear piece here. So your whole exhaust setup is going to be 3 pieces. But if we look at the header piece here, this no name, no brand CRF450RL header, it does have the O2 sensor bung up in the front of the header there, which I've got a plug for. Don't worry, we're gonna get that taken care of since our bike does not have an O2 sensor there. And I guess I'm not sure if any CRF450RLs around the world have an O2 sensor there. You know, if you live in Australia, comment if you have O2 sensors in your header on your Honda CRF450RL. But looking at this first header piece, I mean, this looks exactly the same as FMF's Mega Bomb header. I mean, it's the exact same curves and shape. It has that little expansion part there in the center. Now, to further confuse you, ours had a little sticker right on that expansion part that says CRF400. Now, what is a CRF400? I'm not sure. It is a mythical motorcycle that, to my knowledge, does not exist, so that's interesting. But the welds on this, everything looks very pleasing. I mean, it looks like it's great quality. When you look at the second rear piece of that header, you know, it has your little mounting spot in the rear. All of the welds on there are very pleasing. They look very good quality. I can't find any spot in this whole header setup that's jeopardized or looks like it would fail. And then it has some little cutouts in that second piece of header pipe, and then it comes with an exhaust clamp so that we can clamp those two pieces of headers together. And then it has the little hooks here on that second piece of header that we'll be able to put those springs from our universal motorcycle muffler. That's what we'll hook those to. So in looking at it all, I'll kind of slip it together here for us. It looks like it should work. It looks like everything is gonna be fine. Now, as far as the muffler I got, there is 1,000,001 different motorcycle mufflers you can get. If you go on eBay or Amazon and you just look up universal motorcycle muffler, you will find a gazillion different options. And the only thing you're looking for here is a motorcycle muffler that has a 2-inch or 51mm outlet or inlet, I guess that would be, so that can fit on our 2-inch outlet from this header pipe. So the one that I opted to get is right here. This was like $30 or $40, I can't remember. So it's the fake carbon fiber. I mean, initially it looks like real carbon fiber. These guys do a great job on this and making this knockoff stuff look real. But it's about 12 or 13 inches long, this one specifically is. I mean, you can find all different shapes, all different outlets, different colors and finishes of these, and I've seen them as cheap as $25 and as expensive as $90, $100. So it really just depends what you want to get. But like I said, there is a ton of them to look through. So this one has that 2-inch inlet for it, and then this one actually has a dual outlet, and then it's a straight through. You can kind of see that there, hopefully. But it looked kind of cool online, and actually seeing it in person, this looks really nice. So I'm excited to have this, or at least try it out. And then as far as plugging that O2 sensor spot that's in the header, I just went to the hardware store and I got 1 bolt and 1 nut. So this is going to be an M12 metric bolt, and it has a 1.25 pitch. Now this bolt is much longer than what I need to plug that hole. So kind of my tentative plan here, I got the nut with it as well. So I'm just going to spin that nut up all the way on that bolt. So that nut is about 3/8 of an inch deep. So I'm gonna spin that up all the way, and then I'm gonna hold this bolt or put it in a vise, and I'm just gonna take a hacksaw and saw off the excess, this extra length that we don't want. So the nut that I put on that bolt, it's gonna have like 2 different functions. It's gonna make sure that I don't cut this bolt too short, and then also after I'm done cutting it, you know, the threads on that bolt could be marred up a little bit. They could be kind of jagged. So then I will spin the nut off of what's left of this bolt, and that should kind of clean up the end of what we have here left on the bolt. And then it should be the right length that I can just screw it right into that O2 sensor hole. And then this bolt has kind of a good circular platform on the base of it. So I think that's going to make a really nice seal on that O2 port. And this bolt was $2. So now I suppose let's start installing all of this stuff and see if it works. But first, let's get the before sound of what the stock exhaust system sounds like on this, and then we'll compare it to where it's at after we do this. So now we're gonna go about taking the whole factory stock exhaust off. I think what I'm gonna do is just take the muffler off, and then once that's detached, then I'll remove the header. So now we've got the whole factory exhaust system off the bike. So I'm just gonna take this new header and kind of hold it up here and make sure that it's gonna fit in and work. Yep, it fits right in. It looks like it's gonna be a perfect fit. And if it seems like I'm cold, I certainly am. It is 20 degrees Fahrenheit and windy right now, so bear with me. All right, so I sawed off our bolt. You can see that we just have a little nub right there. So I will take that nut off of what's left of the bolt. Now I just cut this with a hacksaw by hand, so it actually didn't tear up those threads too much, so I'm able just to unscrew this with my hand, that nut from the bolt. There's a little resistance at first, but it's just cleaning up those ends of the threads, and that is our little O2 plug that now we've fashioned from just a regular bolt. So I'm just gonna put a socket on that and see if it fits in there, and it looks like it's fitting in just fine, so I'm just gonna tighten that down a little bit. Well, and that seemed to work perfectly. I'll give you guys a closer look so you can see that there is the end of our bolt, and if we look at it from the side, it's perfectly flush there. So I think that is gonna be our perfect homemade O2 plug. So now we can go about putting on that second part of our header pipe. I'll just kinda get that lined up with our other pipe, and then that clamp. So I'll kind of show you how I did this. So I turned that clamp down to the bottom, and with that bolt on the bottom, then as I get it slipped on, so I have it lined up with our mounting hole right there, and I'm able to tighten that bolt because it sticks out from the aluminum frame here. So honestly, that looks like the perfect spot right there. So I'm just gonna tighten this a little bit. All right, well, and that seems to be good right there. I could probably tighten it a little bit more, but before I completely cinch that down, we're gonna get our muffler on here and kind of see how that's starting to look. All right, the moment of truth. That slips right on there. And then our mounting bolt there is kind of right in the middle of the muffler. So by the time we put our exhaust hanger around this muffler, I think it's going to be at a perfect spot here. So at this point, you can kind of get a sneak peek of what we're about to be working with here. I mean, this does literally just look like the FMF Mega Bomb header. I mean, exactly like it. And then our muffler with the dual outlet, holy cow. This is about to be really, really cool. Well, and we're just losing daylight here. It is getting really, really cold now, so I think we're gonna pause. We're gonna resume in the morning and finish this baby up. All right, it's a new day. It's still freezing out, but we got a little fire going, so that's gonna help us here. It's like freezing mist out right now. All right, so back to where we were. Now, this second part of the header, this second piece, the mounting tab on that, I experimented with that on this side of this plate, this subframe, and then on the back side, and I think you're going to want that on the back side. Everything just lines up a little bit better. Now, the factory muffler that had its mounting tab, that was threaded, and it was acting as the nut on our little bolt here that secures this second part of the header. So we are just going to put a new bolt and nut in there to hold that, and actually there's going to be one with our little exhaust hanger in the other hardware. So that's the bolt that I'm going to use for that. All right, so there's the little bolt that came with our exhaust hardware. So it's just got a hex head on one side, just a standard nut on the other, and then it did have two washers as well, so that's going to help us out. So I'll take the nut and one washer off, and then I'll leave one washer on the head. We'll put that through and then put a washer and nut on the back. Well, and so now we can slide our muffler back on here, and I'll probably put the springs on that at this point. Now, it seems like all these universal mufflers, you know, they come with their different springs, a couple mounting bolts, washers, stuff like that. Sometimes these springs are just rock solid, and they're very hard to stretch from the hooks on your muffler to the hooks on your link pipe. Sometimes it helps to have a little hook-shaped metal tool, you know, to help you stretch those to those mounting hooks. I've always had pretty pretty good luck with just a needle nose pliers as well. So first I'm gonna try that and we'll see if we can't get those stretched out. Yep. And we got one. Worked like a charm. And be mindful of where your face is at when you're doing this. The last thing you want is that spring to shoot back and hit you in the eye, because I think your work day will be over then. All right. Not too bad at all. So now we can go about fitting that hanger around the muffler. So these hangers, you know, it has your 2 holes up at the top there. That's what our bolt will go through. And then you get this rubber sleeve. And so that is going to go on the inside of this hanger. Kind of line things up. And then I'll just start at one side, kind of slip those edges around, and then I just work my way around. All right, and then that's what it should look like when you are finished here. So then we can just kind of slip this around that muffler, and we'll just let it hang there for now. All right, so we're in a little predicament here, but I'm gonna show you how we're gonna work around this. So if we look at our muffler here, it's spaced on the right side of that tire. Clearance should be good. But the bolt here that mounted the stock exhaust is fairly short. So I guess here it is right there. So by the time we screw that bolt into its little mounting hole there, our hanger is just spaced out from that a little bit too far. So I'm gonna need a longer bolt and then some sort of spacer. I mean, you could use like 20 washers on that bolt and that could be your gap, your spacer. But I was going through my extra bolts and nuts. This is just from bobbing out different motorcycles. I found a metric bolt that's the same threading, and then these, they're like an old cargo hook. They were on a cruiser of some sort, and I took them off when I bobbed it out. But if I cut this little hook part off of there, this is the perfect diameter. It fits around this bolt, and voila. So that should space that out perfectly from the frame. So let me cut the hook off this little sleeve, and we'll see if that works. You can definitely go to the hardware store and they will have little sleeves and spacers, so just find one the right length that you need that fits around the bolt you're going to use. Oh, and I've got a couple extra little washers I think we're going to throw on there as well. So let me think about the order I want to do this. So I put a washer on the bolt. I'm going to put the bolt through our exhaust hanger. Gotta put my spacer on the back side. I think that's gonna be the one. Get this started here with a few threads. All right, and here is what we're working with. So looking at the whole setup there, you know, I like the angle that exhaust is at relative to the tail. And then as far as the spacing there from the tire, we're good with clearance there. A good angle. I think that is awesome. Our little spacer in there, perfectly working. I am so happy with this so far. So now we'll just put our plastic panels back on the bike, and that should be it. And then those 2 plastic panels kind of just fit back together. There's a couple just little grooves that they kind of slide and click into place. Well, and I haven't held these panels up here yet, so it'll be interesting to see where this all comes out. Well, and that's funny, since we got that shorter exhaust, you know, that muffler is only about 12 inches long, and so it's pretty concealed under there. Actually, from your angle, you probably can't even see it. All right, so we've got one last little hold up here. So as I was putting the plastic panels on, just the very bottom of this lower panel, you can see just barely touches the pipe. It doesn't touch, you know, further up higher in there, and then it has kind of this heat shielding on the inside of it, so I'm not worried about that, but just the very end here is touching. So I'm wondering if I can't kind of do that same spacer thing we did with the exhaust, where I'm going to swap this out for another bolt that's just a touch longer and put some sort of a spacer, maybe just a quarter or half an inch behind it. And then I think that should hold that plastic just far enough out that it won't be touching that pipe. All right, I think I got something that'll work perfectly. I found a bolt that's the same threading, it's a little bit longer, and then I found, just in my stuff, this little steel sleeve there, and so that's the spacer that I'm gonna use. So I'm just gonna have this with a little washer just behind the red plastic there, and then I'll slip my bolt in. It should work perfectly. All right, and that literally worked perfectly. It is not touching that pipe, and so I think that's just enough. We should be totally fine. All right, and there is the first full finished look. So actually that exhaust, you know, it's kind of totally hidden by our little side cover. At first I was a little bit worried about that, but I kind of like it. I mean, everything looks really nice on there. Spacing, everything is perfect. You know, as we go up the exhaust, everything just mounted up and fits just perfectly. You know, we're nice and snug there against the head. Like, that is a very sleek, nonchalant look for a full exhaust system on your 450RL. It's stealthy. And now the most important part, what we've all been waiting for. What in the world does this sound like? So I'm gonna fire it up here. We're gonna find out. But what I'll say about these 450RLs, you're definitely gonna wanna get a flash on your ECU or get a tuner of some sort. You know, we're just gonna be running too lean with the factory fueling and putting a full exhaust system on our bike. So actually today, I'm gonna pull the ECU out of our bike and we're gonna get that flashed so that we can gain all the horsepower possible from putting a full exhaust on our motorcycle. Well, and let me fire it up. Not too loud. I'm pleased with it. Probably because our muffler has kind of a smaller outlet. You know, some of those universal mufflers, they have like a 3-inch outlet. But I think with those smaller holes there, it helps to regulate the volume a little bit. Gotta warm up a little bit now. So I am beyond pleased with that whole exhaust setup. You know, nothing was terribly hard. I mean, everything was very straightforward. It required minimal tools. I mean, just a ratchet, an extension, and a couple sockets is really all I used. I guess the needle nose as well to get those springs attached. Well, and then as we let the bike run for just a short amount of time, then that whole header kind of turned from the stainless steel, the silver color it was, to a nice bronze, like gold type color. I guess I'll show you that closer. So you can see that whole front pipe, it just turned like a bronze or gold. I mean, it's almost the same color as the forks. So that's kind of pleasing. It looks slick. So initial thoughts, very, very good. I'm extremely pleased with that. At this moment, I'd recommend it. It seems to all work just fine. I can't find anything that's leaking or seems like it's gonna be a problem. And I guess the one thing I'll say is if I did this again, the universal motorcycle muffler that I'd get, you saw where that comes out. It's kind of hidden by that piece of plastic. It's kind of a low profile, stealthy look to it. So it doesn't look bad. It's gonna work perfect. I'm gonna leave it just as it is. But that's the only thing I can think of that I'd change, is to get a muffler that, you know, it's a little longer, that you could just see maybe 3 or 4 inches of that muffler sticking out beyond the end of the plastic piece there. So like I said, the links to everything I'll put in the description down below. I got the muffler and I got that header off eBay. And the cool thing about this, you know, with the other brands, the Yoshimura, the Graves, the FMF, what your bike sounds like is what it sounds like. That is not going to change. You can't change it. Whereas with the setup we did here, if I ever want to change the sound of my motorcycle, I can for $30 to $40. I mean, I'll just go buy a different muffler. And there is just unlimited options out there on eBay and Amazon for those universal motorcycle mufflers. But I think that's about gonna wrap it up for today, guys. So, full exhaust system for a Honda CRF450L or RL, $321. You saw it, that's how you install it. Sounds great. So, like the video if this helped you out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more, and until next time, have a wonderful night, guys.